Hey guys, welcome to Tyson's Fitness Tips Podcast. If you want to lose weight, increase your energy, improve your health and fitness, and look your best, then you have come to the right place. My name is Tyson Brown. I'm a personal trainer, and my job is to help you transform your body by sharing with you the most up-to-date information on health and fitness. I'm going to distill it all down for you into bite-sized actionable steps that you can take immediately to see results quickly. Now, every Tuesday and Thursday, you can expect a brand new episode, which will be a mixture of interviews with top experts from around the world in the fitness space, and as well as solo episodes from myself, sharing with you exactly what action steps you need to take to transform your health, your body, and your life. Also, don't forget to listen all the way to the end of the show, because in the middle, I'm going to share with you a time-saving tip, and it might just be a game changer. I know you're short on time, and this one can save you a lot of time and a lot of energy. So, let's get into the show. Hey, what's going on, guys? Today's podcast, I am actually going to be interviewed by somebody else, and I thought I'd share it with you guys because this is kind of my first interview, which was pretty cool. And basically, we just go over, my background, why I do intermittent fasting, how you can start approaching it into your life, and it was actually really fun to be interviewed for a podcast. So I thought, you know what? Let's share it and let's change the angle here. Instead of me being the interviewer, I am the interviewee. Let me know what you guys think about it, if you like it, if you don't like it, and always don't forget to make sure that you leave a review, 5-star or a 1-star if you don't like it, and give me some feedback. Tyson at tysonbrown.com.au. Alright, let's get into the episode.
Huh?
Yeah, nice and early.
So it's good to have you on the podcast, man. It's good to get you on the air. Why don't you go ahead and tell people a little bit about yourself? I gave a short little intro telling people about sort of what your bio had to say on your Instagram and where they can find you, but shed some light a little bit more on who you are.
Yeah, cool. I'll try and go a little bit more further than that, like a couple of sentence bio on there. But basically, I am a personal trainer in Sydney. I started my journey when I was in, let's say 2010, when I was a kid, and I wanted to obviously lose weight because I wanted to look good for the girls, as most teenage boys do. And and so it was kind of a struggle for the first, I guess I'd say 2 years. Like, I was working out, I was doing all the right things that I thought were right, and basically I wasn't seeing the results, and I wasn't happy with what was going on. So that led me into doing a lot of research on, have you heard of bodybuilding.com?
I have. That's actually one of the first websites I went to when researching the sort of getting into the fitness world myself.
I think that's it's what a lot of people tend to gravitate to, and that's actually where I started studying and learning a lot about nutrition. Actually, like, I happened to come over the nutrition section in the forums, not the actual bodybuilding.com itself, and basically I would just spend hours there reading and looking at different things, and somehow, I don't know how, I managed to come across intermittent fasting, and I was like, oh, this is weird. Like, this goes against what everybody else says. I was like, eating a certain amount of time a day. I was like, I'm going to lose muscle mass. Like, all the things that you think, you're like, no, it's not going to work. But I was like, you know what? I've tried eating the 6 small meals a day. I've tried doing all those other things. What's the worst that can happen? And basically, the weight just started coming off. And it wasn't because intermittent fasting was some magical thing. It was simply because I was able to restrict the amount of calories I was eating in that time, because I have a really big appetite. I always have, and what I found is when I don't eat, I don't find myself getting hungry, and when I'm not hungry, I'm not putting calories in my body. And that led me down, once I started to drop body fat and get results, and I was like, holy, and everyone's like, what's going on? Like, how did you manage that? I started helping other people and telling them what I was doing, and basically, it just fit around my lifestyle. And then probably about 2000, and that was about 4 years into it. So in 2014, I moved away from my hometown, and I was studying personal training on the side because I wanted to help more people. And basically, since then, I went full-time into personal training, and people, like, the same type of thing. People weren't getting results with the diets they were following, so I started showing them about intermittent fasting, and basically, most people, like, I'm not going to say all, because not everyone does react well to intermittent fasting, but most people who I've taught that to have been able to lose weight, and more importantly, keep it off for the long term, because anybody can lose weight, in 5 to 10, whatever, how many weeks, but being able to keep it off for 1, 2, and 3 years is what I find is really important.
Oh, most definitely, because anybody who's losing weight that, like, too fast or doing a diet that they can't stick with, they're just going to have that rebounding effect.
Absolutely. And that's what happened to me when I first did it too. Like I did the bodybuilding, eat chicken breast, eat broccoli, all those things. And, I would be successful for a couple of weeks. I'd start dropping weight and then I'd either go and binge eat or I would go back to my, let's say, quote unquote, normal way of eating, which I thought was healthy. And I'd put back on the weight because it just wasn't sustainable.
Yeah. And so with intermittent fasting, explain a little bit what that might be or what that might entail to somebody out there who might not. I mean, it's easy. People can go out to bodybuilding.com and research this stuff themselves. But what have you found works the best for you in your way of intermittent fasting?
Yeah, so basically there's a lot of actually different ways to do intermittent fasting, right? A pretty popular one that people have probably heard of is the 5-2 diet by Michael Mosley, who made that pretty popular. And that's one version of doing it. But the one that I started to follow and that I've been using pretty much for the last, what are we now, 2018, so 8 years, has been the 16-8 approach. And that's 16 hours a day, I do not eat. And then for 8 hours of the day, I do eat. Now, that can vary up to, sometimes I might go 18 or 20 hours. Just depends on what my work life's like. But most of the time, it's that 16 hour of not eating and then 8 hours of eating window.
Okay. And it's pretty simple, but there's still a sort of caloric threshold that you're trying to keep, correct? Or
oh yeah, of course. Like the big thing that I tell people is like intermittent fasting is not a magic approach. Like just because you're doing this doesn't mean you're going to burn body fat. Just the same as any other diet, you still have to be in a caloric restriction in order to lose weight. But the reason I recommend intermittent fasting for so many people is because instead of saying, I can have a little bit or I can have this, you just say, no, I'm simply not eating from this point in time until this point in time. Because most people are pretty, we're mostly pretty healthy during the day, but when you're watching Netflix at night time, whether you want that wine or that late night snack or any of those things, that seems to be the big killer for most people. And so when you eliminate that by following intermittent fasting, it helps you keep your calories under control.
And sort of the window that you're kind of taking when you're saying that 16-8 approach, that seems like a very doable thing as well, because for a majority of the time, a lot of us, at least I'm not sure what like your work day's like, but for myself, the majority of that time is spent either sleeping or just around the house. And for that 8 hours, that's a pretty reasonable window to work with. Absolutely.
And like, I also think most people don't realize they're probably already kind of practicing intermittent fasting. I mean, maybe they might have some milk in their coffee in the morning. Like, they might have 2 flat whites in the morning, but we're getting busier these days, and most people probably won't eat until about lunchtime anyways. Mm-hmm. So when you first, when you talk to someone about the approach, and you say, hey, all you've kind of do is got to cut back on the milk in the morning, and they go, I couldn't eat for 16 hours, and then you explain to them, hey, you're not really eating until 10 or 11 p.m. a.m. anyways, they're pretty close to that 16-hour mark.
Yeah, definitely. And so when it comes to your personal training, do you personal train in person, or because I was reading on your Instagram online coaching? So
so I actually do both. I still have kind of half my business. So half my business is in the gym training clients because I absolutely love training clients in the gym, but I wanted to have a bigger impact, and so that's why I started doing more online personal training too, which means it's basically you get your workout plans, you get nutrition. I don't give nutrition meal plans because I don't believe in meal plans, but I give nutritional guidance about how you can keep your calories low, and it's that accountability too, because anybody can Google a workout plan, anybody can go and find intermittent fasting like I can, but it's that accountability is what's really, really important. So I do combine the online coaching for people over the world, and I do the in-person training here in Australia and Sydney.
Oh, nice. And really quick, I did give a shout out for your Instagram, but how can people reach you?
They can, Instagram is probably the best way, which is at Tyson the Trainer, with the trainer's got 2 R's to be able to find me. Or you could just simply go to my website, which is www.tysonbrown.com.au.
And again, you're training people all around the world, so anybody listening, feel free to reach out to Tyson and give him some contact if you're looking for workout plans or any type of meal guidance.
Absolutely. I appreciate the shout out.
And so when you're talking about at least the direction that you're going with your Instagram, I've noticed a lot of fitness tips that you're giving and things like that. What is sort of the main driving force behind that when it comes to promoting on your Instagram?
What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, inspiring people, or is it? I know that some people out there, they'll use the social media platforms either for inspiration purpose or it's for like teaching. Are
Yep.
you teaching, or is it more just inspiration?
No, I like teaching, right? I like to say to people like, hey, this is exactly what you need to do to achieve X, because anybody, like, I do like the inspirational stuff too, don't get me wrong, but anybody can inspire, anybody can post a Monday morning quote, anybody can do those things. But if I'm telling you, hey, if you're going to go to the gym, here's what you should be focusing on. If you're going to eat, here's what you should be doing. And it's like, there it is on your on your platter, because at the end of the day, whether people want to coach, like whether people want to come to me and train or not, I want to make sure that I'm the person. I'm pretty selfish. I want to be the person who people can say, Tyson Brown helped me change my life. Like, Tyson is the person who helped me lose weight, and all I did was follow his free stuff online. Because if I can give people as much information as possible and I can help them, I get that selfish, good feeling inside that I'm helping other people.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to, I wanted to touch on your book. That when you first contacted me, you said you had written and released a book, and I definitely wanted to hear more about that.
Yeah, so the book actually isn't fully released yet,
Oh,
but
okay.
it is coming. It's called Ditch the Diet, and basically I kind of wanted to share exactly what I teach my clients and what I teach on my online coaching, which is how to follow an intermittent fasting lifestyle. So there's three parts of the book. There's the nutrition, there's a workout component, and there's a lifestyle, because health and fitness should be integrated with your life. It's not, I've got to go and be healthy and fit, I've got to stick to this diet and I can't go out with my friends and enjoy myself. I want to show people that they can combine that all together while still being able to lose weight, while still being able to look good with their shirt off, and not feel like they're following some restricted diet where for some reason they're not allowed to eat carbohydrates, or they're not allowed to eat a certain type of food because it's quote unquote bad for you.
Yeah. And that's sort of the middle ground. I feel like a lot of these diets and a lot of these people are tending to lean towards, at least in social media, is sort of finding that way to continue to lose weight, work out in the gym, and yet still have that social life. Because when we look at the golden age of bodybuilding and the Arnold Schwarzenegger and that era where it was just very bland, chicken breast oats and things like that, it seemed like a very anti-social sort of lifestyle.
And it kind of what like that. That's also where you've got to look at it as like they were dedicated towards bodybuilding, right? And most people, we're not going to be like, it's just the honest truth. You're not going to be a bodybuilder. You're not going to be as big as Arnold. Why should you have to go through that big restricting process of chicken breast and broccoli, which can taste good if you make it right, but why should you negate the other areas of your life just because you're like, you know what, I have to lose weight and this is the approach to lose weight?
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to more of like that social aspect and things like that, just being a little bit more free and a little bit more open with your diet while including things like intermittent fasting and not going overboard, still staying at a caloric deficit, is this sort of treading on like a if it fits your macros type, or do you preach more what would the term be, like good carbs or better decisions carb wise?
Well, it's funny because it kind of blends the two, right? So like, let's say you're going to go out with your friends for breakfast in the morning and you're doing intermittent fasting. Well, then that's pretty fine because you can have a black coffee anyways, and people aren't really going to bat an eye whether you're eating breakfast or not. But I think the big lifestyle thing is people who want to go out at night time and drink alcohol and things like that, which completely can be done using intermittent fasting. And you just got to be strategic about it. Like, let's say if you're going to go out on a Saturday night and you're going to go and drink alcohol. Well, because I still teach people that they have to be in a caloric restriction, if you know roughly that you need to be eating 1,900 calories a day to lose weight, and you decide for the rest of the week you're going to eat 1,500 calories, so you're going to put yourself in a bigger surplus because you know you're going to go out on a Saturday night, then that surplus on a Saturday night is not going to be as detrimental for the following week because you're still keeping yourself in a calorie deficit. The reason most diets fail is because people will stay strict all week, let's say, and then on the Friday night, the Saturday morning, the Saturday night, the Sunday morning, it all goes to shit. And then that's when you can... Sorry, I didn't mean to swear. And then that's when you can go from being in a calorie deficit to going to maintenance or even in a surplus simply by going overboard on 3 days versus one night a week and keeping yourself in a calorie deficit during the start of the week.
Yeah, so many people don't realize early on when they're dieting how they might be losing that battle because they're either drinking their calories or they're going overboard on a cheat meal and turning it into a cheat day or a whole cheat weekend, and that ends up putting their numbers over in total.
Absolutely. And I also talk about that in the book too. Like, I used to, like when I first started dieting, I followed the, cheat meal once a week and cheat day and stuff like that. But let's be honest, like, you never feel good after a cheat day or a cheat meal because, first of all, you feel like you've cheated on your diet. The second thing is you feel like you're never going to be eat that stuff again. So you will shove your face full of so many calories and make yourself feel awful. And if you've got a big appetite like me, you know those 10,000 calorie challenges?
Yes.
So this is how, like, just much of a little, like, of a fat kid at heart I am. I actually went and did, I probably got about 8,000 calories in one meal from one day.
No way.
Yep. I went to a buffet and then me and my friend said, let's see how much we can eat. And we probably got to about 8,000 calories in one meal. So if let's say you do have a big appetite, not like, you might not get to 8,000, but let's say if you get in one meal, you have pizza with, do you guys measure in gallon? What's a gallon of Coke? Do you get a gallon of Coke? What do you get over there?
A gallon of Coke. Whoa, that would be a lot of cola. It's actually sold in 2 liters.
You just sold, okay, cool.
Increments.
So if you had a whole pizza, a 2-liter Coke with some garlic bread, and then you also went and got a dessert after that, because that's your cheat, that's a lot of calories you've just added in there, and that's either going to put you back to maintenance, or it's going to put you overboard. And it's simply from that one meal. So instead of saying, I'm going to have a cheat meal, why not say, on a Friday night, I'm going to go and enjoy a good meal with my family or my friends, and it's going to be, instead of a whole pizza, it's half a pizza. Instead of a 2-liter Coke, it's 500 ml. It's just making smart choices over time.
It definitely has to be in moderation. That's something that I learned through trial and error, that I was a whole pizza kind of guy myself, but when looking at using the app, MyFitnessPal, I found that a whole pizza, depending on where you get it, can land you at 2,500 calories alone just right there. So that's not including the soda. That's not including any breadsticks or any desserts or ice cream that you might want to get after that. So I found that I'm more of a 3-slice and I'm done kind of guy. That's if I am going to have something like that, 3 slices and I'm good.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's got the foods they like and they should not eliminate. Like for me, I'm not a big pizza fan. I would say for me, it's more of a sweet thing. So, but I know if I keep ice cream or anything in my house, it will disappear like that.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to go and have an ice cream or something, it's going to go out to a gelato place, or it's going to go somewhere where I can't bring that food back home with me, and I can only, I'm not going to spend $20 on ice cream or anything like that, but I'm going to go and have a good ice cream, be happy with it, and that'll be it. Because that's my trigger food. If I have that at home and I'm like, it's moderation, that's going to be gone before I even get home most of the time. So it's not about just like saying, okay, I want to have some of those foods in my life. It's knowing that if you're going to have that food, are you able to keep it at home, or do you have to specifically go out and have that food to avoid bringing it back home and overeating during the week too?
And I think that's a really good point that you make, because it's something that I also had to implement in my dieting. Was I can't have these foods in the house. So if I am going to have them, it's either going to be at a family function and I'm not going to fix myself a plate to bring home, or I'm going to go to a restaurant and have it and then not bring home any leftovers. I feel like I go to the place, and even then, like, going to a place might be a deterrent in itself because of the inconvenience of getting in your car and going somewhere. So even then, it makes it less easier for you than just opening the fridge or opening the cupboard.
Absolutely. The harder you can make it, the less, like, humans are just naturally lazy, right? So, which is why Uber Eats is a problem. But the harder you make it for yourself, the easier it's going to be for you to stay away. Like, even if you literally said, I'm going to put the cookies that are in front of me in the cupboard. I'm going to put that, those jar of cookies in the bottom bit of the cupboard. I'm going to wrap it in Glad Wrap. Like, the harder you make it for yourself, you're going to be thinking, do I really want to go and open that jar and open that Glad Wrap and do whatever you've done? Or do I want to walk down to the corner store? Nah, not really. Like, I'm too lazy. I'll go and do something else instead.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned that you were a sort of a bigger guy looking to slim down, and I myself was in that same boat. I'll have to admit, you are the first guest on the podcast. So shout out to the big guys out there looking to get small. So it seems like it's a much different perspective for a smaller guy wanting to get big. It seems like, and not to really speak on something that I don't know that much about, but it seems like it's a little bit easier with the trial and error process of learning their diet, because they're not really, so they may gain some more fat, but they're not going to get to the stage where we were.
Mm-hmm.
So when it came to losing, how was that sort of emotional trial and error, and what did you find encouraged you to keep in pursuit of the weight loss and the fitness journey?
I honestly think it was because when I was so young, I just wanted to look good for girls, right? Like, I was like, I just
That's a good
wanted,
motivator.
and like, it was just there was so much trial and error, and maybe it was just because I was a little bit arrogant too. I'm like, no, I'm gonna make this work, because I told my friends and family that I was working out. I told them that I'm gonna lose weight, and I was like, I don't want to be proven wrong, and
There's accountability there.
It was the accountability. I think I did a lot of things like unconsciously that I didn't know about, but those important things of like just having that end goal in mind, and just like, I'm not gonna give up. Like, I failed on this diet. Okay, let's try this one. And I just kept trying until I found something that worked. But it was also that frustration of waking up and looking in the mirror and just being like, man, I'm not happy with how I look at the moment.
Yeah.
And I just had a sheer determination of like, I'm going to get through this. I don't give a shit how long it takes. I will get it sorted. And luckily I stumbled upon something that worked for me, and I think everyone will find that, but you've just got to keep trialing until you do find something. And like I said, intermittent fasting like works for me, it works for some of my clients, but it doesn't work for all of my clients. Some of my clients just feel like if they've got to eat clean 24/7, and if it works for them because they feel better, they just mentally are able to stick to something, well then that's absolutely for them. So everyone's got to find what works for them.
And you mentioned that you told your family, you told your friends that you were on this weight loss journey, and that is some form of accountability. I know that for myself, I kept it close to the chest, that it was like, I'm going to do this, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, then I don't have that sort of overwhelming sense of failure over my head. But what do you do for your clients when they come to you? They might feel defeated, or they might be having a really tough week, and how do you talk to them? How do you keep them sort of on the straight and narrow?
Well, it really depends on, what exactly their goals are and what they're struggling with at the moment. Because I feel like a lot of people, they have that inner drive, but it is their social circle that's actually affecting them. So a big thing is to think about, who are they actually hanging around with? Like, co-workers at work, certain friends, they're not going to be they're not going to be the good social support. So you need to get yourself around people. This is why Facebook group work. This is why podcasts like this work, because you can feel like you're surrounded by people who are on the same journey as you. And then it's kind of less frustrating, because if you're like at work and every day people are trying to throw you off your diet, your friends are trying to get you to drink on the weekend. If you know they're having that negative support on you, you need to cut them out. Like, it might be seeing them instead of every week, you see them every 3 or 4 weeks, or you don't go out and drink with them, you go out to breakfast instead. Because sure, they don't purposely want you to fail, but when you start to transform your body, they start to think about, that's not the same Tyson that it used to be, or they start to question themselves, and they don't like change. Humans just don't like change. So you need to make sure that you're surrounded with that strong support group as much as you can, which is why, when people come and see me and they're frustrated, going back to your question, I'm there to support them. Hey, what's going good? I help them think clearly, because a lot of us get caught up in our emotions. Oh, I stuffed up my diet yesterday. I feel like crap. A lot of my clients ask me, should I do a 24-hour fast today? Should I do a 48-hour fast to undo all the bad stuff? And I'm like, whoa. That can completely swing in the other direction and be a bad thing if you go into these prolonged fasting periods, when if you make a mistake, you just need someone on the outside to think logically and help you through that emotional time.
Yeah, and I can definitely agree with that. I've had jobs where coworkers, they see what it is you're going through, and for some reason, it's like all of a sudden out of nowhere, hey, let's go to lunch. Hey, let's come and do this. I'll even buy you lunch. And I'm thinking to myself, where were these offers when I was a fat kid?
Yeah.
No one was offering to buy me anything before I started going to the gym.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. Like I was, when I first started trying to lose weight, it was actually one of the reasons that was a big problem for me too was because I worked at a place called Red Rooster, which is like the equivalent of KFC. And so that's like, my environment was completely counteractive to what I wanted to achieve.
Oh, yeah.
So even when I implemented the intermittent fasting, it was actually funny because I had that discipline to say that I'm not eating for this certain period of time, which usually when I was at work, and I just wouldn't eat anymore. But if I didn't have that restriction, I would just pick at chips, I would pick at the chicken, I would pick at the burgers, and of course that's it's all about that environment. Like if you have those coworkers there that are trying to offer you free stuff, things like that, you've actually got to be willing to have a conversation with somebody because you are a grown-up and you will say to them, hey, I really need you to stop offering me food. I'm really trying to stick to this diet and I need you to be able to support me. And most people, if you had that one-to-one conversation with them, they're going to support you. Like they're going to be like, oh, this, he's actually serious about this. They're not going to laugh in your face or anything like that. And but you've got to be willing to have that conversation, right? You can't be like, I can't believe you offered me lunch today again, or they brought in a birthday cake and they offered me some. Like you can blame them all you want, but at the end of the day, you also need to take responsibility. So if you say, hey guys, look, I'm really trying to eat healthier. I really need you to support me. Can you please not offer me any food? And can you please, if you see me going or anything, call me out or do something, because when you can have that adult conversation with somebody, you're much more likely to be able to start changing that environment to be more positive than negative.
Yeah, and grazing can be one of the worst things, especially when working in the food industry. Just picking away, like you mentioned, at foods here or there. So when it came to the intermittent fasting, and for those of us, I know myself, for example, what works for me is having a meal every 3 hours, I believe, but they have to be smaller portions.
Okay.
So when you're going a longer stint like that, and anybody who might not have sort of, I guess, the will or the sort of self motivating strength in the beginning, what are some of the tips or tricks to getting past that? I know that if I'm ever feeling really, really hungry or really like I can't make it until my next meal, I would reach for like one of those little 5-calorie stick of bubble gum, and that would sort of get me through, or drink like a ton of water.
Yeah, that's some actually pretty good ideas. Chewing gum is one thing I like. Another thing is just start small. Like if you're like, wow, 16 hours is a lot, start with 14 hours, start with 12 hours, you don't this isn't like okay, tomorrow I'm doing a 16-hour fast and I'm gonna go from then on, because if your body, you can train your body to have certain hunger cues at certain times. So if you're used to waking up and eating at 6 a.m. and then eating at 9 a.m. and then eating at 12 p.m., on and on and on, you've trained your body to say, at this time we are eating, and your body will send you hunger cues. So if you decide to change and try intermittent fasting, you've actually got to give yourself time. It usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks for your body to be able to adapt to your new eating window. So you can start off smaller and say, I'm going to start with a 12-hour fast or a 14-hour fast, and slowly work your way up over time. Apart from that, you have got the chewing gum, like you said. Black coffee is a really good one, or teas. Just having something, because most people, you're not hungry, you're craving something. Because if you're like, if you're hungry, go and eat some celery sticks or go and eat some carrots. No, I don't want that. I want I want salted nuts or something. Well, then that's not hunger. That is a craving, and they are the opposite. If you are actually hungry, you will want to eat the celery. If you are craving something, you could say, no, I don't want the celery.
Yeah, for me it was really weird. I didn't it sounds kind of weird, but I found that it wasn't sort of the sense of like there was a craving, but I think with the chewing gum, it was just the habit of chewing.
Yes,
that was what I needed, that fix. Sort of like, and I've talked about it in a previous podcast about how food can be just as equal to an addiction, whether it's alcohol or another type of vice. You just need that motion, I guess, of chewing.
Food definitely is an addiction. Like I honestly believe that you can completely become addicted to food. Like for me, another thing is when I start to eat, it's very hard to have that off switch. I always want to have a little bit more. I want to have a little bit more. And that's why I do. But when I say I'm just not eating for a certain period of time, there's no trigger there for me to say I've got to eat something. But I can have the chewing gum, I can have some tea, I have some apple cider vinegar, just a shot of that. Sometimes it kills the appetite, but something to kind of, I guess, like, you say, like, it's that chewing motion, or it's just like having that taste in your mouth because your body just feels like it needs it.
Yeah, definitely.
And if people want to, sorry, do you mind if I just say something really quickly?
No, go ahead.
So even when it comes to coffee, right, like if you're like, I want to try this intermittent fasting thing, but I can't tolerate black coffee, then if you want a dash of milk in your coffee, have the dash of milk. Because, like I said, like, don't go from drinking 2 cups of coffee a day, like 2 flat whites with sugars, and then going, I'm just going to have black coffee, because of course it's going to taste terrible. And no offense to Americans, the coffee over there is shocking. Like,
oh wow,
oh man, like it's
shots fired.
Yeah, shots fired for sure. Like, I was just over in New York, and you can, like, I use natural sweetener for my black coffee, which is completely fine. Using a natural sweetener as a replacement for sugar. But if you want that dash of milk in there to train your body, like to say, okay, I'm still going to be intermittent fasting, but I'm going to have just a couple of dashes of milk in there, that's completely fine too.
Yeah. And I found that when converting to, sort of weaning myself off of coffee and going the tea route, I needed that tea to be sweet, which completely defeats the purpose. But my train of thought was, okay, I'm having 3 artificial sweeteners in this tea. I'm going to slowly, either week by week or over the course of a month, remove one of those sweeteners until I'm just drinking it just straight up.
There you go, exactly. And like, I think you touched on a really good point there. As you said, I'm going to do it either, month over month or every couple of weeks. It's not like tomorrow I'm going to go from 3 to 2. The next day I'm going to go from 2 to 1. Like, you do not want to put yourself in that everything's going to change overnight or anything like that. Because these transformations, they look great and things like that, but you didn't put the weight on overnight. You're not going to lose it overnight. And if you're more consistent with your habits and you just take it one at a time, same as a cigarette smoker, if you smoke 12 a day for every single day, cut it down to 11 a day. Because eventually, that will turn to 0. It might not be overnight, but if you can keep the consistency with just a little bit less for every couple of weeks, you're more likely to break that bad habit and keep it broken, as opposed to breaking for a couple of weeks, being really strict with yourself, losing the weight or quitting smoking and whatever, and then all of a sudden your willpower is not strong anymore and you're going to get back to exactly how it was.
Yeah, and I can definitely agree with that. So what else do you have going on over there in Australia with your training and with your online coaching and writing and podcasting I see on your Instagram?
Yeah, that's probably the most, like, making my videos is what I love doing too. Like I said, at the end of the day, however I can get myself out there, whether it be through writing articles on my blog, doing videos on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook, coaching people is what I love to do. So whether it be in person or whether it be online, I love doing that because I love being able to help people transform their body. Like, being out, like, the internet has allowed me to help so many more people with the online coaching, and that's where I'm really, really trying to grow myself there. So the more people I can help, the better I'm going to feel inside, the better they're going to look. It's going to work better for everyone, and it's just trying to get that message out there as much as I can.
Awesome. Well, I want to go ahead and throw it out to you if there's anything else that you wanted to add to this podcast. I know I sort of went on with the questions that I had for you, but
I think a big thing I would like to leave the listeners with, whether they want to do intermittent fasting or whether they don't, if you're just trying to determine, like, you've got to track your food at some point for a certain amount of time. Like you said, you use MyFitnessPal. I love using MyFitnessPal. I get my clients to use it because you could think that you're eating healthy or you could think you're making the right decisions, which you could be, but if you are not losing weight, it's because you were just eating too much food, whether it be quote-unquote healthy or not, because even though nuts are healthy, if you're having bags of nuts a day, that's too many calories. If you're having, 2 or 3 avocados a day, if you're having good food but it's just too much, you're not going to see the results. So I would always say track your food for a couple of weeks to get a real idea of how much you're eating. And that includes the things you drink. That includes those little snacks and those donuts and all those other things that you get given to your coworker, that your coworkers give you. Those calories actually do count too. So give yourself 2 weeks and just say, I'm going to track every single thing I put in my mouth, liquid and food form, and then just have an idea about how much you're eating. And the first step is awareness, and then from there you can do something about it.
Well, right on. And once again, where can the listeners find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. It is at Tyson the Trainer with 2 R's, or you can find me at tysonbrown.com.au. And if you guys want to reach out for online coaching, just make sure to send me a DM, because I do have a couple of spots available. So if you guys want, make sure to send me a DM, whether it be email, which is tyson@tysonbrown.com.au, or just through Instagram, and I'll help you out from there.
So Tyson, I want to thank you again for coming on the podcast, and I want to encourage the listeners who partook in listening to this podcast to check you out on your Instagram and to reach out to you. And thank you again for being part of this.
Thank you so much for having me on, and I appreciate being the first guest. Woohoo!
First guest from Australia.
Yes.
All right, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you guys, and thank you guys for listening.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate it. Now, I've got a special gift for you. If you want to learn how I managed to lose 10 kilos and keep it off, then I've got the perfect treat for you. I've got a free intermittent fasting cheat sheet that I share on my website that shows you exactly how to diet effortlessly with intermittent fasting and fit it into your busy lifestyle. And more importantly, this is the exact guide that I follow every single day that allowed me to lose 10 kilos of body fat and keep it off 4 years later. So head on over to www.tysonbrown.com.au and pick up your free cheat sheet today and learn how to fit intermittent fasting into your life and diet effortlessly. Once again, that's www.tysonbrown.com.au. Opt in for the free cheat sheet and I'm going to send it straight to your inbox for free. Until next time, speak to you guys then.